You see the same images. You see the same thing. All right. So, because she sees the same images, aren't they the same images?
No. No, it doesn't mean they don't change, even though you see the same images.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what's the mechanism? It's like the projection. What's the projection? It's like the technicality. What's the movie that is projecting the same?
What's happening? What's happening in that moment? So she's like saying, yeah, intellectually I know this cannot be the same. It must have changed. I've been to Italy. I've come back. It cannot be the same. And still, my mind automatically goes, same building. So, what suggests that? What is happening in your mind that leads to that thought?
She's not really looking at the buildings.
She's not really looking at the buildings.
She's looking at the picture generated by her brain that those are the buildings.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's not so much the building itself, but it's the kind of general image she has of that building.
She can't remember the building like she saw months ago. She remembers them the same, but so she sees her memory, not the buildings.
Okay, so same kind of idea, yes? Yes?
The building is even empty of being a building.
The building is empty of being a building. Can you explain that?
It's empty of any characteristic that you assign to it. And even the buildingness of it is not there.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a projection or a label in your mind.
Okay.
So when you label it a building, you already assign to it something that is not there.
Mm-hmm.
So you then label it, okay, it has 5 windows, and then all the other labels which are not there from the building side.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's your name again, Doron?
Doron.
Goron?
Doron.
Doron. Okay. So Doron, what Doron said, he's saying, well, actually, you're driving past this building. It's in and of itself not a building. So you're basically just labeling it building, but it was not a building 2 weeks ago, it's not a building now. But you're just labeling it, there's nothing wrong with labeling it, but in actuality, it's in and of itself none of those. And it may appear to you it's a building, but that is just your mind projecting or your mind labeling in both cases. And in both cases, you label building, but in both cases, it's not a building from its own side. That's what you're saying, Lauren, right?
But she agrees. She says intellectually understand it.
Okay.
But why does it still appear to me like it's the same building again and again?
Okay. So she's not saying, I disagree, you explained it, but she's saying, well, why do I still have that sense? What's the reason for that? Yeah.
Well, I think it's just a habit. I think from the economy point of view, we don't want to expend a lot of physical or mental energy on things. Every time we saw something, we had to recreate it and reconceptualize it and reperceive it, then all our energy would be going into that. So we have the opposite tendency. We see something, that's why after you see something a few times, you really stop seeing it. It doesn't exist anymore. We have the label. Okay, I know that's a tree. But I don't see the tree. I don't appreciate it. I don't, it's just a tree. It doesn't mean anything to me more. It's become a label. And it's just, and one thing after another, after you keep labeling things, then they become habit. And then it all becomes empty, but empty not in a good way.
Oh, meaningless.
Empty in a meaningless way. So it's just, and so then you're really not seeing anything. You're seeing the building, but like you said, it's coming from an old image that you don't even have to renew because it's there, and your mind can be thinking of what you're looking for, seeing that, you can be thinking of a dozen different things at the same time and doing different things. You don't have to put your energy into it.
All right, okay. So now, she's not answering your question directly, like your question is still how come. She's saying, well, actually the problem is we're so stuck in those labels, I think that's what you're saying, as in like we're just used to it, we're just stuck with the idea,
And the habit.
much less, and not with what's behind it. What is the actual object? What are all these what is the basis for me calling it? What is it actually made of? We don't wonder about that. We compare to what we saw before, see similar characteristics, and call it again house or building, whatever, or tree in that case. And so we're just stuck with that and never look further. saying?
And it becomes a ritual, and it's just a habit.
It's just a ritual.
It's automatic. It's just automatic. A habit.
All right, but in answer to our question, yes?
The Prajnaparamita Sutra.
Okay.
Form is emptiness, emptiness is form.
Okay,
We live in a world of forms.
yes,
You cannot live without form.
that's right.
We need structures, we need buildings, we need
Mhm.
trees.
Mm-hmm,
This is this reality,
mm-hmm,
digital reality.
okay,
So accept it. It's there. We need it.
okay.
And
Yes, yes,
that empty form is emptiness. So is it either something or other?
uh-huh.
Behind the forms, but we need forms too.
Okay, emptiness is form. What does that actually mean? It means that form is only possible because it doesn't exist inherently, right? But that still doesn't answer, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said, but our question is still, but how come I just have that thought? House, building, although it's changing all the time. How come I have that thought all the time? Not that I see how that is a big problem, but you know.
No, that's not, I understand why I have that thought. One day I have the thought, my father's alive, my father's alive, my father's alive. One day he may not be alive.
Okay,
And we said, that I understand.
okay.
It's like the mechanism that works that I will see. I will understand one day there will be an earthquake and I may not see the buildings. I'm driving through Tel Aviv and I'm thinking, okay, this building now he has clouds, now he has shades, now it's raining. I play with that.
All right, so your question is, why do you always perceive it as a building? Why that sense of permanence?
Yes.
Why that sense of permanence? Okay.
As you said earlier, there's like an inner level of our consciousness that is more subtle, and that's where our true beliefs lie. That's what makes us see things the way we see them. We can intellectually think this is not really a table, or this is not really a building, or this is not the building that's supposed to be there. But subconsciously, maybe, or in a more subtle level, we still want them to be permanent because that's the way we used to work. It's like a habit or something like that. Maybe you didn't internalize deeply enough the fact that building is not actually the same building in the same street, in the same city, in the same country, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying now it's just because of our sense of permanence that we innately have, it's deep within us, and right now we only give every now and then think, oh, it must be changing, but we don't give it enough thought to allow for this understanding of impermanence to dig deep, to go deeper, so that you don't have that automatic thought. So I think what he's saying is that, yeah, at some point we heard it's impermanent, but that's not enough. You really need to meditate on it. Meditate in such a way that you have an experience of the ever-changing nature of phenomena, and then check, do things still arise in the same way? Do you still have that sense, oh, same old building, same old?
It's like in the first movie of The Matrix, where Neo, at first they tell him, you're the one, you live in a machine-generated world, fabricated world, nothing is real. You can alter reality the way you want, and it takes time for him to believe it. He only, but just in the end of the movie, that's when he actually can see the reality as it is, as a computer-generated system.
I think I need to watch that movie after recording so many times. I still haven't seen it. All right, no, let me just kind of, just a second. So, basically, her question is like, how am I stuck in that sense of permanence? I know Namazo Brahmji said it, I know the Dalai Lama has said it, so many people have told me, and nothing changes. I'm still having those thoughts, right? And how come? How come it didn't affect me, basically? Yes.
For something like, I don't know, like a building, like you said, we were saying before, we preserve everything through the particular kind of sense apparatus and sense perceptions that we have. So, for something like a building, it takes a long time for us, with our sense perceptions, to be able to perceive any kind of physical change. Building, for us it's a physical thing there.
Mhm.
So from 1 week to the next, from 1 month to the next, from 1 year to the next, the building, to my physical perceptions, will look the same.
Mhm.
Eventually, after maybe decades and decades and hundreds of years, I would be able to see my sense perceptions that it has been, it's changing. It didn't happen overnight. It happened instant by instant by instant. But I can't perceive that. When I see from 1 week to another, from 1 month to another, from 1 year to another, the building looks the same to me.
Mhm.
You see, dirty, it might be a little dirty or whatever, but I can't see
Okay.
the momentary changes that are happening all the time.
So you have an innate sense of balance, right? You have an innate sense of balance. We all have an innate sense of balance. Where does that come from? Why do we have that innate sense of balance? That's the question. I think it comes down to that, yes.
There is a psychologist theory which speaks about running away from freedom of Eric Froome.
Who?
Eric Froome.
And he speaks about that people have a lot of anxiety from freedom.
Oh, they're scared of it.
Yeah, and they're running away from groups and religions, and even maybe to hold on in the sense of myself. Because to go to the freedom, which is nothing exists,
Okay.
everything is empty, is very, very
Scary, okay. Well, I think what you're addressing is maybe the wish for things to remain the same. Right? We hold on to things and we want them to remain the same.
But it is because of we are afraid from freedom. It's like I feel
Afraid of freedom from what?
It's like
Freedom from what?
Online. I don't know what there is. It's like being in some kind of an empty space. Emptiness. And
Oh, so fear of that state of non-inherent existence, well, that fear definitely also is mentioned in Buddhism. When so far you hold on to things, this is this, this is this, this is that. So we have a very fixed way of looking at reality, which it does create our problems, but at the same time, it gives us a fake sense of security. Oh, I know it's going to be like that. Nothing can surprise me. And there's this fear when you suddenly hear things don't exist that way, you fear of losing yourself, you fear of losing that which is familiar. Definitely there's that fear. It's mentioned. It's actually seen as a good fear as part of the process of overcoming it and eventually letting go and enjoying it. Yes, and effectiveness. But I think still the question is very interesting. Where does our sense of permanence come from? What is the sense of permanence? Things that are actually changing all the time. To us, they seem unchanging. And we're not talking about, oh, my friend, I didn't meet her for 10 years, now she's got wrinkles. Oh, she changed. Right? We're aware of that. We're aware of that kind of change. Okay, that is coarse impermanence. We're aware of coarse impermanence. But these wrinkles in our face, it's not like every Friday you get a new wrinkle and the rest of the week you're the same. No, because we change all the time. That's why the coarse change that is noticeable can take place. So the noticeable one is called coarse impermanence. Subtle impermanence, we're not aware of. Why not? What is the underlying misapprehension, and I give it away, it's a wrong view, an underlying wrong view, that is the cause of our apprehension of permanence. So the reason, she's basically saying, why am I perceiving it as permanent? That's basically her question, I believe. So what is the other misperception that underlies it? Yes?
Maybe it's the state of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
That comes
Ignorance of what? Perceiving what?
Reality.
Yes, reality. So, now make the connection. How come our sense of phenomena existing in and of themselves, that's what it says. So now we need to understand why. Our sense that phenomena exist in and of themselves, as a building, as a table, that leads to a misapprehension. It gives rise to a misapprehension that this is permanent. What's the connection? How come our sense of phenomena not being just labels, only being this and that in relation to something else, but not in and of themselves, this, that, and the other, how come this wrong view gives rise to a sense of permanence? This is an important idea.
Because it can't change.
Yes, it can't change. If it is inherently, so to our mind, things are in and of themselves a table. And that would mean if it existed that way, it would always be a table and it wouldn't change. Our mind does not have the ability to perceive change because our mind has this underlying sense that something, because I call it a building today, I call it a building tomorrow, therefore, it's the same. Because we no longer see the thing for what it is, like you mentioned. We're just stuck in, it's a building. We're stuck in that, it's a building, and no longer see the basis of invitation. Right? We label it that. So we're just stuck on the idea as a building. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. So we're stuck in our labeling, believing that's reality. Right? This is this is that, this is this. And I mean, even modern science has shown that when we perceive things, when we perceive the objects around us, it's our projection that already exists, like a projection, this is a tree, and that becomes part of our perception. A person who sees a tree for the first time sees it very differently to someone like us. And it's not that important anyway, it's not like a big deal, but this is how we see other people, how we see ourselves. We're kind of stuck, right? We're stuck. We don't want things to change, and even if we do want them to change, we're stuck in like it's all the same, not noticing all the details. And this is where a lot of meditation comes in. Familiarizing ourselves again and again is changing. And it's not enough to think about it for a minute a day. It's not enough to think about it for an hour a day. If 23 hours, no, we don't wait that long, but however many hours, 18 hours a day, 17 hours a day, we're reinforcing that sense of permanence. So we're meditating on permanence. We're meditating on inherent existence all day long. Meditation means habituation, familiarization. All day long we familiarize ourselves with our old wrong views. But in Buddhism, the opposite is being taught to you. So instead of things being permanent, they're changing all the time. Instead of existing in and of themselves as this, that, and the other, they only exist as this and that in relation to our mind and certain other things, and then they're just labeled. Unless we familiarize ourselves with that idea, ideally, half the time, we spend familiarizing ourselves in the other way, right? For really, I mean, if you go to this extreme, okay? This is one extreme. How can you level it out? You need to go with the same force to the other side. You can't expect to kind of go, like a little bit briefly, kind of like trying to, I'm not going to go, I need to put enough effort to get out of it. Equal strength. So in other words, if we spend 17 hours every day reinforcing that, we now need to spend 10 hours undoing it. This is why just listening to this, reading a book, unfortunately, I wish it's not enough. It means a lot of time thinking about it. Does that mean you have to go off into the mountains? How many mountains do you have? Right? A few mountains, you go up, find a cave. No, you don't need to do that. But, like the way you did it, beautifully, you drive through town, right? And it's again and again, yeah, it looks the same, but it's not. This has changed, and this must have changed. The concrete must have changed. Pieces of cloud. Just remind yourself, if you do that long enough, before long, okay, sense consciousness, whatever it perceives, but you're more talking about a mental conceptualization. You familiarized yourself with the thought, oh, it's not the same. Of course, this has changed, this must have changed. And this is how they say it. This is this process until one day you will naturally randomly go, oh, it's so different, it's separate. So initially it's just an intellectual idea, and then through habituation you actually experience that. So, in answer to your question, a lot of undoing of old patterns. do that while brushing your teeth, while driving. Traffic jams are great. You know, stuck in one place, don't have to do so much. Yeah, so you can undo it then. So just thinking about it again and again and again, just undoing it. And this is a good way to learn about this. Because when you have the misapprehension of reality, when that goes, you undo that naturally. But it helps you from both sides. It helps you to think about this, the impermanent nature of things. That undoes our holding onto inherent existence, and that in turn undoes our sense of balance. Okay? Dawn, that's
Is it possible for us to live questioning continuously everything?
yes.
The water that I drink is changed. Is it still water? Can I drink it? Will it do what it did yesterday? Etc. on everything? Is it possible for us to live like that?
Possible, maybe, enjoyable, not sure. I mean, everyone has to find their own way of doing this. Like, just watch your own mind. The first step is, am I stuck? Like, this is the, I mean, in the end, no one knows your own mind as well as you do. And then just check. When you're unhappy, what is the cause of that unhappiness? Am I stuck on holding on to permanence? Is it me holding on to inherent existence? So to really recognize the mind, what you need to do is like, if you can be mindful at all times, perfect, but that's difficult. Oftentimes, we end up with an emotion, such as strong anger, or strong attachment, or, some emotion that now is strong enough, I notice it. And then go back. How did I get from, I don't know, really happy this morning to very grumpy now? And kind of trace it back. Because it's not long ago that all this happened, so you can trace it back. And you start to understand, oh, this is where I exaggerated. This is where I gave it more permanence than it has. Right? I had all these expectations of my relationships. Oh, of course, I'm changing, they're changing. How could our relationship be the same? I've been holding on our relationship being the same. I don't think we need to worry about building so much. Except if it's your building and you're very attached to it. No surprise, right? Just let it go. It looks as scruffy as it can get. Well, it's never going to look the same as on the first day. Okay? So a lot of worry comes from that. If you're German in particular, whoa, right? It needs to look the same as on the first day. So everything. So a lot of time and energy is spent believing it needs to look the same. I want it to look the same, and holding on to it, right? And being surprised when one day it's gone. But I think houses are less of a problem. Relationships are important. Relationships. We hold on to relationships. Oh, we're newly in love, or, things are going well, and then problems arise, and we're surprised. Why? Because we're not aware of that constant changing nature. We lose our job. Yes. We're doing well. I mean, look at the environment. How long can we help keep it up? I mean, anything can happen. To be expectant of that, accepting of that, and ride with the waves instead of trying to stop them. Not even thinking of enlightenment and so forth, but really, it's all about watching your own mind. And you're the only person who can do it. I think watching is much better. First, just getting to know what are the mechanics of my own mind. Okay? And now, having heard the few words, the few things that we talked about, this is just theory right now. This is not theory for a Buddha. This is practical for a Buddha. Now, what is theory for us? We need to make it practical. Okay? So there are times when we just watch, and then there are times when we analyze in the way we've just done. But always analyzing? I don't know. Depends on the person. All right, great. That was a long day. 9:30. Did it well. You're still with me? But, okay, so let's leave it at that. Now, your homework. Your in-between session work, but not talking to anyone. Haven't got time on your hands. Try to watch your own eye. As you go to bed, etc., like a little spy. Look at your own, watch your own mind and your sense of I. Your sense of self. Is there a sense of self? This is the same I that went through my room, that brushed my teeth, etc. Is that the same I or not? What is my sense of self in relation to mind and body? Just get to know that. Right? Try to be mindful of that. Okay. So have a good night and dedication.
Page 19, Chasa. בזכות חסד זה, להשיג במהרה את מצב הבורא במודע, ולהוביל למצב זה כל התלמידים והחלכה. בתודעת ההערה אלוהים, עד הערך שטרם נודע וזו שתדעה לא תתנבא ותזכה עוד דבר. כמו שחדשו שירה זרוח וגם סמרתה בגרה, רבו נכוחה את הדברים לפי שהם. כך מקדיש הפניק כל הפוטנציאל הזכות הזה בדרך הטובה ביותר. לעילוי ימין למופת. מקדיש את כל חיוביות השורש הזאת שלי ושל אחרים, בהקדשה שכל הכובשים מחלופים על מעבר בשלושת הזמנים, וללוע הטובה ביותר. הוא העלי לכוחי לעסוק במעשה הבודהיסטווה והעולם.
Okay, good night. So please don't wait for me because it puts pressure on me to get up quickly.